celebrities in the house.
Celebrity, yeah, it's like.
I said it's the worst episode of Gogglebox ever.
That's what it is, exactly. Celebrity Gogglebox from Saddleworth.
If you want to see me as well, this is my better side.
Having watched Celebrity MasterChef, I would doubt some of those people are actually celebrities. So, you know.
Listening to this, I apologise. It's just going to be probably the worst one.
I mean, I've only retweeted 3 Rugby League podcasts already today, so a fourth is, the fourth is exactly what we know. I thought John Davidson's on 2 of those. We'll give him a week off this week.
Yeah.
And maybe the Toronto fans will.
He's on everything.
He is on everything.
Sorry, John.
Yeah. Phil's here, obviously, and Rugby League's top power couple in the media.
I won't go that far.
Well, the other one's got his own podcast, so we can't invite him on. So it's Gemma Carter of Forty20 magazine and the Sun's Rugby League correspondent, Gary Carter. How are you both?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yourself?
All right. I mean, the sun's just come out, so that's positive because it's been raining all day.
Yeah.
Well, on the right side of the hill, it's definitely not sunny.
That's why there's no cricket at Old Trafford, clearly. What a strange venue to choose in the summer when it's going to be raining.
That's why it's raining, because there is cricket at Old Trafford.
and cricket's going ahead now with people there.
Yes.
The Bob Willis Trophy, and people are going to be there this weekend. And we are back this weekend in Super League with 2 exciting fixtures.
So excited.
In this...
I had a pie at dinner to celebrate.
Are you going to Headingley on Sunday?
Yes. Yeah, so I've just been and bought me wipes for the desk and the hand gel and the face masks.
Didn't you do that already when you were going to Yorkshire then? Is that not a new thing?
I jet washed myself. Not me. I'm not going to God.
I'm going to be watching on TV because no one wants to employ me, and I don't want to get in the way of everyone either. Most importantly, are you going, Phil? Will you be there for the exciting resumption?
I have applied to be there. I have a reason to be there, but I think they're going to be really strict on numbers, and I think media will be rotated around the first few weekends of games to make sure that those who need to be there have a reasonable excuse to be there can be there, and those that aren't will still get access to the post-match, but from the luxury of their living rooms.
Yeah, I have to dress up smart. I have to put a shirt on just to pretend I'm working.
Do you wear a shirt normally?
No. Only at Wembley, when everyone does. Certainly Wembley, where no one, loads of people are there who don't need to be there. But, that's another topic. Carter's, first of all, how excited are you then by the return of Super League this weekend?
Very excited. Yeah.
I'll agree. Yeah, of course I'm excited. It's been 4 months.
Nearly 5, yeah.
Nothing. That is a long time.
Like when he started, it'd be a couple of weeks, then it'd be another couple of weeks, and you think, then it's like, bloody hell, it's nearly 5 months now.
And football's finished. There's nothing left to watch, apart from the playoffs. But
Scottish football's back at the weekend, the Scottish Premiership, so that's exciting.
I'm not interested in that, sorry. No, I mean, I am really excited. I feel like I don't know. I actually don't know what I've done with my time. Well, you'll say you've been busier than ever.
I have been busier when there's no games on than when there is games on.
I think there has got to be a mixture of excitement and trepidation, because it's going to be so foreign, for everybody who's involved, the players, anybody who is there working at the game, those who are sat at home. There is no protocol for what we're going to see. The game's going to look different because clearly there are 2 significant rule changes. There is still an outside worry that what's happening in Spain at the moment may affect Catalan this week, because Barcelona obviously is one of the areas where there's a rise in infection. So the whole Toronto thing, who should have been the first game that we were seeing, I think it's sort of mixed feelings. It's a bit like going to a new school. You're not 100% sure what to expect, but you think you're going to like it, as long as they've got pink custard for lunch.
Oh, no, I hated school.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't stand it. I don't know if that's in hindsight telling me that I hated it, but no. Didn't like school at all. Certainly not secondary school, even though that's where I played. The only times I played rugby was at secondary school. in my illustriously terrible career. So we are excited. The good news is, of course, from the test last week in Super League, no positive cases from players or staff. So fingers crossed, the players and the staff keep within their bubbles and don't take any unnecessary risks, and it remains that way for the foreseeable future.
Oh, stay off Instagram, then you'll see some right things on there. Just saying.
Is that where you get most of the stories from?
Ooh, you see some right things on Instagram, Phil, I'll show you.
I'm too old. I don't want to even go there.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
But it's like anything. It's like where we're at as a country. The stage we're at as a country, we're at the stage where if you're sensible and act within the guidelines, then everything's got to be all right. If you step out the guidelines, then you're risking it, aren't you?
Yeah, there's got to be there's always an element of personal responsibility, isn't there? And I think there is an element in society, isn't there, where there's always somebody else to blame. Yeah. But I think going forward, everyone's got to take some sort of responsibility for their actions. So that's what success will be based on, won't it?
It is, yeah.
You're right, Phil, though. It's going to be different on all levels. All levels, for us working, for fans watching, fans not being able to go. It's going to be strange sat there and it just being silent for a start. I don't know if I can sit in silence. God.
Apart from bleeping out the swearing, clearly, you can imagine Sky's entire commentary is going to be an apology to everybody. I'm sorry, but if you heard something there that you shouldn't have heard, of course you're going to hear it. There's nobody in the ground. You're going to have microphones and hear the players.
Well, I have to practice the lines yet.
I like to do a little neutral yes every now and then.
What's also going to be interesting from a form point of view, because clearly people we know are predicting what the results are going to be. I won't give anything away. Leeds by 10. But the fact is there is no form line, because apart from the fact that none of us can remember what happened before the shutdown, how are the new rules going to affect the way teams recruited? So, for example, you pick a team like Hull, who deliberately went for size for this year. And now we're going to come up with a game that's played on very firm pitches, where we've got the 6 again rule and no scrums, and you're worried you wonder whether that recruitment policy is going to backfire in the short term, because the big lads they've got in the middle that they've stacked up their team with are going to get run through by small nippy guys, and I just don't think we can predict how anybody's going to come back. They're all saying they've trained really well. They're all saying that the attitude's been right, which every team says coming out of any pre-season. But I genuinely, you look at Brisbane, for example, who went into lockdown 2 wins out of 2, and now if they were the only team on the pitch, wouldn't be able to win a game.
Yeah.
How's it going to go? How can you say?
Yeah, you mentioned there about the whole signing big thing. With the way the game is now, does that not play even more into the whole going forward early doors and trying to build enough of a lead that the smaller team could perhaps eat away at, and but Hull can hold on? Does he not play even that scenario?
But their forwards are going to have to play big minutes, I think, and that's going to be one of the issues as well. Do they have the endurance? Because they haven't come out of an exacting pre-season. And I'm not picking on Hull. I think, some clubs have recruited a certain way, and to change the rules, 7 games in for most of them, is a real test.
No, it is, yeah, definitely. It's I mean, we sort of touched on it a bit before. I mean, even for fans watching on telly, this is going to be nothing they've ever seen, because the NRL has scrums, doesn't it? So it's going to be a case of waiting and seeing how it works. It'll almost take 2 or 3 weeks before people get used to the fact that there's no scrums and how it's going to work.
The future, it's the end of the scrum. No, is anyone going to mourn that, apart from forwards who want to be given purpose? I'm turning to Scully. Oh, big lads up for it. Yeah, grunters here. Who just stand there. Donkeys, that's it. Is anyone going to miss the scrum?
I know one person who will. Tim Sheens.
Well, you don't have to do much, though, until... let's talk about the championship for a minute, because we'll talk more about the games coming up at the weekend later.
Something I know.
What books? What?
Brass bands in Saddleworth.
So stereotypical. Carry on, Championship.
Just on brass bands, I was very sad to hear that BBC Local Radio in Yorkshire might be getting rid of their brass band programme, because that gave us one of our best gimmicks at Radio Yorkshire in coming on an hour before kick-off while they were playing brass band music. But never mind, both of those things are finished now. Yes, the Championship, which sensationally, after we finished the show last week, literally minutes after the show last week, was cancelled, expunged, put in the bin along with League One for 2020. Some clubs obviously not happy, and Featherstone Rovers straight out of the gate trying to get into Super League.
Come on. Timing. You know, for a sport that is really trying to jazz itself up and make itself look attractive, it's great at doing the exact opposite.
When Bury failed.
The ghosts of rugby league past that appear to be coming out of the woodwork.
You obviously got
no names.
Well, not yet. You obviously go through a lot of lower league football going. Obviously, their seasons were cancelled very late on. Yes. But when Bury went to the wall, which seems like a long time ago now, but will be about a year ago, there was no team in the conference saying, "Oh, we'll take over. We'll take League Two or whatever." Were they? It's unseemly, so to speak.
It is. I mean, the main protagonist wasn't Lee. It was more Featherstone than the main protagonist. And for me, there was always this thing in my head like, we're on about making the game as big as possible to appeal to as broad a range of people as possible. So we may put a third team in the Wakefield Borough in the same division.
Well, we're desperate for more top flight rugby in Wakefield. We'll get Dewsbury and Batley in there as well, because they've got the same postcode as well. We'll have all in. We'll have our own little Super League. We'll kick all you lot out. We'll have Wakefield Super League, yeah. But
again, without wishing to assume that Featherstone have changed their names to the Vultures, they don't want to play in the Challenge Cup. So it's like you want your cake, but you don't want to eat it, kind of. Yeah, we're good enough to be in Super League, promote us tomorrow, we can take the place of Toronto, but actually we're not sure we want to be in the Challenge Cup. There's too many anomalies going on at the moment.
I just found it really poor taste. I'll say it was poor taste.
I think the reality is coming out now in the teams that are saying, as good an idea or as honourable an idea the autumn competition is, we just can't afford it to run it. Just can't afford to play it. That now is more the reality of what was below the statements from Featherstone and Lee saying, keep it going. The RFL holding us back. I mean, the reality was the clubs below that. I mean, if you'd have gone on with the Championship, probably six or eight of the teams would have gone under.
It is a tricky one, and as we kept saying for the last few months, there's no precedent for this whatsoever, and I'm going to say I feel sorry for the RFL in a sense that what can they do? They can't just be there to appease a handful of clubs outside of Super League when the majority can't sustain rugby without fans.
No, definitely. I mean, the RFL, it's literally just like, I mean, nevermore is the answer. I don't know, been more apt over the past few months because people literally do not know what's going on or what's going to happen. We don't even know now what's going to happen. I mean, I've never known what's going on anyway, so. No, I mean, the RFL have literally been, I suppose with all governing bodies, really, just been put in a situation whereby they can just sort of shrug their shoulders and say, well, we've never known what's going on, so I don't know, basically. And that applies.
I think the difficulty they've got as well is that unlike football, which needed to cram a very small number of games in to complete something, so there was an imperative to find a way to do that. We're almost at the beginning of the season. It makes it absolutely impossible for even Super League clubs to be able to plan the size of their squads at the moment because they're going to be playing so many games over such a short period of time. If you're trying to do that with part-time players, it's impossible. To have a meaningful competition in 2020 has now gone past the point where that is realistic. And palatable though it is, 2021 is shaping up to be a really significant season. So for clubs that need to be at the start line for that, if they have to sacrifice playing in 2020 to preserve themselves, we should be supportive of that. And I have every sympathy for the honesty of clubs like Halifax and Rochdale that have already come out and said, look, the position that we're in at the moment, it would be financial suicide to play in anything in 2020. And I think we should respect that.
Surely these clubs want to be around in the year of the World Cup as well. 2021, it is all about the World Cup and building up to that. So that, I'm sorry, it needs to be the absolute priority.
And what we forget as well is the World Cup is a wonderful opportunity for players in the Championship and League One to have higher recognition and representative honours, because they will be playing for the Cook Islands and Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and it's really important to not harm their opportunity to do that. And I think that if we have to go without club competition for a year, and I'm not even sure that I'm 100% happy with what we're asking Super League players to do. There's a huge anomaly in saying we recognise that Easter in its traditional form should now only have one game because of the way the sport is moving. We're going to speed it up by having the 6 again rule and no scrums, but we're going to cram in more games than we have for the summer, since the summer era came in. That I understand economically why they're doing it. I still have some reservations on behalf of the players and the clubs if it is a sensible thing to be doing.
That's the thing, isn't it? Even not within the sport, within the world, everything is based on economics. All decision making is based on money. And unfortunately, without the money, we won't be here next year, will we? Let's face it.
But I think, like every sport, our financial model has been exposed.
It has, but also, why is the Premier League finished the season? Why is the Championship finished the season? But why is the Championship finished the season, but League One and League Two didn't? And why haven't the National League in that case? It's exposed the financial models in all sports, really, and it just showed almost in a way how flimsy the financial models of all sports are, really.
Because football's not come out of this looking peachy at all, especially in the EFL. There's a lot of stuff.
There was a report from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport the other day, and it actually said the financial model of football is not sustainable. And
I think we've known that, but because we live in an era where everything has to be professional, we've sort of turned a blind eye to it. And again, I don't follow football. I know that you're absolute experts in football, but it appears as though the top, 6 of the top 7 clubs in the Premier League this year are the ones that are acknowledged to be the wealthiest. Yeah. So, even the joy of uncertainty that is supposed to come with sport is undermined by the financial model that we have in sport. And there's a lot of questions for every sport, but this really is a point where Rugby League has to decide how it moves forward from an event like this and what it wants to look like. And that's why the Toronto debate is wider than David Argyle's purse. It's what is the identity of the sport.
Yeah, it's almost like time for a reset of the game, really. Have a look at it, how we've come out of it, what's been exposed, what hasn't been, what's come good out of it, what's been exposed as being bad out of it, and just reset a lot of it, really.
But you're saying the same things year on year.
Yeah.
This is like celebrating 125 years of Rugby League, and I've been around the post-Coma years, 5 years now, and it's the same year in, year out. So 5 years, I've been listening to this. You've been listening to it for longer. You've been saying it for longer, Phil. 125 years.
We keep saying
make a flag.
We're going to have that party as well, and that won't be happening now because we can't have a party. We said right at the start of this 4 or 5 months ago that this was a great opportunity to really have a look and to use your word, Gary, reset, and we haven't taken that opportunity. Yesterday, Sunday, a club owner returned to social media, which is always good. This is why we didn't have John on, because he's already banned. I don't know if he's banned twice.
2 years as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Ghost of Rugby League Past tweeted something about an hour ago. It's been 2 years since this person was last on social media.
I mean, we've got a double header on Sunday. We still might have a triple header if the Toronto Centurion Rovers take to the field. I don't have the words. I'm trying to be diplomatic. You know, I follow darts a bit, and you watch the World Match Play just finished, and then the PDC did a great job with no fans there, but it came across on TV as a great, proper sporting event. You know, well done, Dimitri Vandenberg, blah, 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 blah. The other side of darts is a complete shambles, and it is run like a working men's club committee. And unfortunately...
Sounds familiar.
But we've been saying this for a while. Phil mentioned Speedway last week, and we are heading in that direction. If we don't stop the self-interest and look at the game as a whole. And I don't think people can...
I think what's really interesting is that we started off lockdown by being the only sport that was given a government loan. Now, whatever those terms and conditions of the loan are, who's going to end up using it? It may well only be the RFL themselves that end up using it to tide them over, because we don't have an Ashes series and we may not have a Challenge Cup final this year. Irrespective, no other sport has been to central government and been given the wherewithal to find a manner of survival. And we did that on the back of unity and common purpose and governance that was deemed to be ahead of most other sports in terms of the processes that are written down, the all-inclusive community nature of the sport. All the things that we love about rugby league got us to the position at the start of lockdown where we could survive. And towards the end of lockdown, we're now back in little pockets of self-interest that have beset us for 125 years, as Gemma said. So it's really interesting to see, even over lockdown, how rugby league has gone from its very best face to some of it's not so good. And unless that changes, and it has to change with an agreement from everybody that independence, a commission, is better than vested interest making the major decisions, then nothing will change.
Yeah, if anything, the governing body of the RFL are perhaps guilty of being too close to the people, whereas that degree of independence needs to come in almost like the RFL board saying, right, we're becoming completely independent of you now, or we say, right, we're bringing in another sort of 3 directors, non-executive directors or whatever, and they are the completely independent board now. They decide what happens, not us.
I think there's a massive illustration of this in Sonny Bill Williams, because technically under the terms of the rules of the NRL, he can't play this year. Clearly, there's at least one club that definitely would have him, and there's another club that might be interested in him. Either club, he would be great PR value. But to hear Peter V'landys, who is the chairman of a genuinely independent commission, saying whatever the rules are, if this guy's available and is going to increase the profile of the competition, never mind make a club that he happens to join more competitive than it was before he joined them. The fact is, we can't turn down the chance to have him back in our ranks, and we'll find a way of moving the rules to accommodate him because of the exceptional circumstances you might come under. Over here, you know, we won't give anybody a dispensation to do anything, especially if it's going to disadvantage the people who are making the decision. So I think that crystallises for me the difference between the sport or the table trying to determine.
Phil keeps breaking up, doesn't he?
Oh, right. Is it Phil? Because our Wi-Fi can be a bit dodgy.
No, it's not you, it's Phil. He's frozen. He's frozen in time.
Yeah, got what you were saying with the Sonny Bill thing, but in terms of publicity for the competition, for the right or wrong reasons, could you not say the signing of Israel Folau provided the same publicity for the right or wrong reasons as Sonny Bill Williams did?
But we weren't allowed to talk about that. And the players weren't allowed to talk about that. And no one was allowed to talk about that. I think Phil's
not
back.
talking just generated more interest.
No, but in terms of interest in the signings, everything.
Yeah.
Signing of Israel Folau generated as much publicity for a different reason as the Sonny Bill Williams signing. I get what Fernandez is saying, but the problem you've got is doing it for one club, for whether it's genuine reasons or not, it gives the other 15 clubs will be, right, how can we exploit that?
They can sign all the other Toronto players that are free now. Colin Watkins could be heading straight back to the NRL.
What about the ones that have been signed and not yet announced?
What, like Stevie Ward and Richie Myler and...
Ben Flower?
Yeah.
As far as I know, they've been told they can find other clubs if they want.
It's terrible situation.
I don't know if Phil's back with us or not. He keeps freezing and then coming back. But while he's not there, what do we think will happen with Toronto? Because obviously...
I'll tell you, they won't be back.
They won't be. Well, what happens then? Because we can't have an 11-team Super League, can we?
Promotion and relegation. I can't see that they'll be back. How can they be back when you're already telling your players to look elsewhere? You're telling your players to look elsewhere. You've not got a plan for 2021, no matter how much you say you have.
Can they merge with Ottawa?
Well,
There's probably more distance between Toronto and Ottawa as between John O'Groats and London, isn't there?
well, in all seriousness, like if Toronto don't come back in 2021, which they're probably not going to, let's face it, what does happen, Phil? What do you think?
I don't think we can have 11 teams in Super League. I don't think it's workable at any level, apart from the fact that we've already announced that we've got a Magic weekend. You have to have an even number of teams with that.
Well,
I don't know what you do.
Some relegation and how do you go about it?
Well, the problem is that you're in the realms without having promotion or relegation on the field, with actually creating franchising. Because you'd be looking at potential candidates in the championship who could be that 12th team, and you'd be deciding upon what reason they would be that extra side on the basis solely of criteria outside of playing. Yep. And that becomes the beginning of franchising, which is why the debate about expansion, promotion, relegation, franchising at the moment is more important actually than even who wins the championship this year. And those are the debates that an independent commission should be having and initiating, and not the club sitting around deciding whether Toronto, in whatever form it might come back in, be it with or without a David Argyle behind it, is a preferred. Like we started the conversation saying, there's some issues now that we need to address that are bigger than win, and we have to do that quickly.
The thing, with the name Toronto, I know there's a lot of debate out there that people don't think they deserve to be in Super League, but let's face it, they've played the way into the competition, and like it or not, they do bring interest. I mean, the London desks are interested in Toronto. People that don't necessarily come and watch rugby league, our friends, for example, will come to matches when the team are playing Toronto. It has generated interest, and unfortunately, Toronto generated more interest than, say, London being in Super League. And I am a huge fan of London and love my trips to London, but do you see what I mean? There's more planning going forward if you've got a name such as Toronto on the table, as long as it's sustainable. But
I think there's two other things about Toronto. One is it's brought 10,000 new fans. And as a sport, there is no area, Leeds, Wigan, St Helens, Hull, that can bring 10,000 extra fans over the course of 2 or 3 years. So I think that has to be borne in mind. If you're a sport, that expansion is not about necessarily geographical areas, it's about new markets. It's getting new people interested in your sport to keep it sustainable. That's the first thing. The other thing that I've been struggling to reconcile, because there has been some pretty obnoxious stuff by people who are rugby league fans and we're supposed to be a family, is the fact that David Argyle, for all the sharp business practices that clearly have been reported and proven to be true, has put in £19 million or thereabouts of his own money into the sport. The sport has put in no pounds to achieve what has been achieved. And yet the man who's putting the money is the man who's being vilified. I think we've got that the wrong way around somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It's not just at Toronto where people are putting their own money in. I mean, remember, Ian Lenigan put £1.4 million into Wigan to cover their losses. Last time he's put another £500,000 in to see him through this time as well. So it's not just Toronto where backers or owners are putting their own money in to keep them afloat either. I mean, if it was me personally, I think providing Toronto have to sign up to guarantees, I think they should be in 2021 in Super League, purely because relegation.
I think the other thing as well. No, I think you're right. I think the other thing as well is that it exposes the fact that we are allowing new teams in and not giving them even the same resource as the clubs that are already in there. So to start off by penalising new teams by not giving them the same distribution is almost saying we don't want you in our competition. So whereas any expansion that is deemed to be if you want to come in and join our party, you've got to pay. And you're going, well, clearly then you don't want me at your party. So we've got to decide the whole process of, if they do come back in, is there right to give them some of the income that is generated by them because they are part of that competition?
No, wait. I mean, I personally would have it as a written rule that any team that comes in, whether it be an expansion team, whether it be a team from down the road, has to get central distribution. I'd sort of make it a written rule whereby teams have to get central distribution. Whether teams could argue that waters down the distribution they get.
Well, that's the issue now, isn't it?
Clubs have budgeted that's the issue. The clubs budget on that
distribution figure, and they're not gonna give that piece of the pie up, are they? Because that essentially could potentially send them to the wall if they don't get that sum of money.
Does that not show just how?
And I think the irony is as well, if you were to invite a Leo Featherstone or a London to take place off Toronto, they clearly would have access to central distribution. So it's a minefield for everybody in every respect.
No, it is definitely. It's definitely a minefield. I think it'd be more of a minefield if they decide to relegate Toronto to the Championship, say, because then you're sort of thinking, who comes up? Is it Featherstone who were top at the time? Is it, say, London or Toulouse because they have more to offer off the field? And then where'd you put Toronto? It just opens up a massive, massive can of worms if they decide to relegate Toronto.
It has to be based on what value do they bring to the competition. If you relegate they would. That's it. They'd be gone. There's no two ways that they would be gone.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that if I was a backer in Toronto that I would want to go through a season in the Championship playing half of the teams that you play are part-time teams. Results tend to be foregone conclusions in that respect. Most of the time that Toronto were in the Championship, they weren't troubled enough by the opposition that they played on a regular basis. It was only late on in the season, in the playoffs, that they were challenged. Now, London were absolutely magnificent in the playoff the first time round, and the worst season Toronto had was their second season in the Championship because there was nothing in it for either the teams that were playing or Toronto themselves. So to put them back in that environment, I don't see the point of it. They're either in at the top table that they qualified for, or they're not. There has to be sanctions for pulling out of a competition, and a realisation that if what they've had to deal with the COVID economic impact had applied to any club, even Simon Moran at Warrington, who is one of the wealthiest men who is involved, if you were to say to him, you don't have access to furlough payments, you don't have access to a £16 million emergency loan, you don't have access to any home games at your stadium this year, you probably will be paying back the bulk of your season ticket holders for any money that they've already given you. You probably will be either rolling over or paying back all of your corporate sponsors for every pound that they've put in. Warrington would struggle to survive.
No team in 06, no team is all right.
It's a massive mess. And before people complain on us, we're not saying that Toronto didn't have any before COVID. Yeah, we're not saying that Toronto didn't have any issues before the COVID-19 situation, because obviously they did. And they weren't resolved. And those have to be part of those guarantees that Gary's mentioned, obviously, that they are going to pay people on time, they are going to pay their suppliers, and they're not going to put themselves in a situation of their own making rather than one that no one could have foreseen. Yeah,
there's undoubtedly lessons that have to be learned on both sides. But I'm not sure whether more lessons have to be learned on our side than Toronto's side. I mean, it's pretty much not in doubt that Toronto haven't necessarily run their business properly. Whereas I think part of this, the learning now has to be, part of the guarantee should be you have to guarantee that your business is run properly, basically.
Sorry, I just find that laughable in itself.
Fit and proper persons, that's what we need in rugby league.
Fit and proper persons. Yeah. Due diligence. I can't even say it.
Due
diligence. That's used my brain for 4 months. Although I've not used it before that.
Well, those people at Wigan Athletic, they obviously passed the fit and proper persons test from the Football League, didn't they? So, you know, it can be done.
Low.
I guess the issue, and it has been mentioned, so if there is no Toronto in Super League next year, how do we choose who replaces them? Is it going to be, Featherstone were in the grand final, or Lee have got Derek Beaumont moaning on Twitter, or Toulouse are French and exciting, or London were in Super League, or, you know, we'll just pick a name out at random, put Rochdale or Coventry in or someone.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, if you pick one, you can guarantee the other 13 will have their legal papers waiting to be lodged. If anything, do you go with 11 for next year, then have no relegation next year, but promotion to make it?
I mean, we've got to be.
Well, then how do you do Magic Weekend, which is the Super League moneymaker?
I think one of the people who's got to be involved in the debate has to be the broadcasters. Now, at the moment, that would be Sky in this instance, because clearly they are, one of the people who put a massive amount of money into the sport. But you've got to ask them as well, strategically, how does it work? You know, where do they see the most value in the sport? Why would they continue in the way that they have in the past? I didn't want some saying to the teams that were involved in it. And it may well be that, perhaps a Toronto is what they would like. There won't be another satellite dish put up because of it, but it gives them the ability to market the sport to advertisers, to expect a bigger audience because of that transatlantic element. It may be that they don't want a Toulouse at the moment because there isn't a French deal that they can reciprocate. It could be that they're already talking to a French broadcaster saying that if that did happen, it's worth a lot more to you. It may well be that they would look at a Featherstone and say, we don't particularly want to interfere with how you run your sport, but actually that's the worst thing for us or the best thing for us. I think you've got to include them in the discussions.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sky has to be part of it. I mean, for like it or lump it, their contract keeps the game going, doesn't it? So you have to involve the people who are keeping the game going, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's what this era has exposed, that the lack of finance. We are so dependent on television money that to make a decision about who the 12th team is can't be done without input from television.
I'm going to cut Phil off and join and see if I can get him back on.
Thank you. I can't help it.
It says on my screen, I've kicked Phil Kaplan out. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? I didn't mean to kick him out. But I mean, I could edit this afterwards, but I probably won't be bothered. While we're getting Phil back, Gemma, you must be excited to see Donald Trump is a Salford fan.
That did cause a lot of faux outrage, didn't it?
I mean, I missed it. So I saw the initial tweet. I thought,
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a very odd choice, but I wasn't offended by it. I didn't pour my outrage on social media, which people have got a habit of doing far too often. It's like, all right, odd choice, probably wouldn't have been my thing, but anyway, we've got the second most cardboard cutout fans. Yes.
There he is. He should be back now. There he is. Phil's back. It's still in wonderful blocky vision there in the 4020 studio. We're just talking about cardboard cutouts, Phil. We might actually replace you with one for the rest of the show. But Donald Trump causing much controversy. This is a controversy I've completely missed. I saw the initial tweet and then just missed the whole reaction to people getting upset, as Gemma says, as is their wont to do on social media.
Like, you could have put Boris Johnson, people would have been offended. You could have put Keir Starmer, people would have been offended. You could have put your face, Richard, I'd have been offended.
Oh.
You know, like, there's always going to be someone that's been offended. It was an odd choice, but we're so many days down the line and something else will have happened. Ugh.
That's usually what happens.
Twitter's just one big echo chamber anyway, isn't it? Let's face it.
Well, it is if you mute people.
Gaz certainly has to.
Yeah.
No, but it's be kind. You've got to be kind to people, apart from, when it doesn't suit you, and then you can say whatever you want about people. Yeah. Philly's back with you. What are you looking forward to seeing all these cardboard cutouts at Headingley, and how many are going to slip through the net? Because we've seen it in Australia, we saw it at Leeds United. People don't pay attention. How many people are going to be? This is going to be Gemma's job on Sunday. She's going to be looking around the cardboard cutouts to see if there's any mass murderers or terrorists there.
Well, my eyes are terrible anyway, so I wouldn't spot them.
Or pets.
Pets, yes.
Yeah, pet
dog. Looking forward to the pet sanctuary.
Well, I do think it's a great idea. Leeds United did phenomenal with it, didn't they? Did they sell was it 25,000 or something?
You see, Man United are 40,000.
It's a great little money maker, isn't it?
Leeds will take them off. Leeds will take them off.
It's stand to make it look busy next season. Got to keep them. Come on, it's good, isn't it? You'll be proud.
It's better than. I was watching the baseball because there was nothing on the other day, and on one channel they've got no crowd at all, and on the games that Fox are showing, obviously Fox, Sky, we're the same thing. They've got a virtual crowd there. They've put computer-generated crowd in. It looks strange.
All right, they've actually got vision of computer-generated crowd rather than noise of computer-generated crowd.
Yeah. So from some camera angles, there are people there because they're computer-generated, and other camera angles, it's just empty seats. But there are people in the stands, and not just cardboard cutouts.
No, I'm not keen on that.
I'm waiting for the first comment that says there are more cardboard cutouts than real fans. So that's my made up Huddersfield to pick a team, and again, it's purely at random. It's not meant to make any political point. The atmosphere is better with cardboard cutouts than it is with real people in there.
Well, this is no bloody cowbell there on Sunday.
Oh, I love the cowbell. What's wrong with you?
It's
sad though when the cowbell's talks about more than your team, though. Let's face it.
I've just Keithley have just tweeted that they're not taking part in this autumn competition. I am thinking about getting in touch with the people at Pyongyang to enter, because we might be the only team to enter. So we might be able to get this 250 grand.
A media team.
Could you not set up an 8-13 competition?
What?
terrible.
Is he on 2 tin cans and a piece of string today?
May as well be. I think Scully's Wi-Fi would be better than yours, Phil. And we've only just taught him how to spell it.
WF. He's moving again.
I'm going to try a different location.
At the West Wing.
I thought he was going to go to the toilet then. That was even more concerning.
I thought it was going to go. It was a cake shop. No.
If your router's up there, you'd be fine. But if
No, that's John Davidson.
Oh, God.
Oh dear.
It's like a really bad episode of Blair Witch now, this, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Back into the he's back where it was now.
Oh, I've been on the 3rd floor.
Not the Asian 13, but the Euro 13 competition.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you've had something on that.
Writing about the Dublin Blues.
Yes. They're very ambitious to get into League One eventually, but according to them, you need to put up a bond of £500,000 in case you go under. And that's their stumbling block. Basically, they're very, very keen to get into League One. And obviously, I mean, it's not a massive jump, is it, to picture a club in Dublin in League One if you let Ottawa in New York in. Dublin's quite a logical sort of next step as to a future market, really.
Yeah, like a magic weekend in Ireland. That would be amazing. That would work.
Expensive. Oh, but it would be great.
Yeah, but people would go.
Did you go when the Charity Show was in Dublin, Phil?
I did. Just the same weekend as the Horse of the Year.
Is that Horse of the Week show?
It was a great weekend.
Now polo mints.
Right.
Oh dear.
Oh, Phil.
Well, at least we're having fun.
10p a metre.
Yeah. Just people will complain about this afterwards. Say, well, it's free. You're not paying for this. So I'll cut him off again. Let's cut him off again.
Kick him out again.
Should we just get John in?
I kicked him out.
Come on, John, join the call.
See, like last week when Paul joined us halfway through. Solidarity with having a League Weekly, by the way. Obviously, not good news for them that they're not coming back.
I think it's quite an odd decision as well. Actually, I think it's obviously Danny's got his reasons behind it, but I think it's a bit short-sighted.
Well, fingers crossed that decision can be.
Yeah, I hope it'll
coming forward. We do need as much media coverage as possible, even if it is just internally and speaking to ourselves.
No, exactly.
Because local radio is pretty much local commercial radio, I should say, is dead. That is dead now.
Well, they're saying they're on about reshuffling at BBC as well. What impact that would be on sport, I don't really know. But that's quite worrying as well. Like,
it is when there's only so much money to go around, and football rights obviously cost a lot of money. I mean, I don't know the situation with Leeds United, but the fact that they're in the Premier League now will, there's more costs attached to that than a team would be in the Championship. Local radio was just hanging on from people who, without wanting to betray any facts or anything, a lot of local radio went at the end of last season, as we know, and the ones that were hanging on were basically because they were doing it for nothing.
Yeah.
Which is not good for anyone, not least people who want to earn money in the sport. He says doing this podcast for free, but that's different. I don't know. I'm kind of excited about Sunday because at least we're going to have something to watch. You'll be there at Headingley. No food though, which is very disappointing.
I am going to take snacks.
How many books?
None. It's the first game. I'm going to concentrate as I always do. Books are just for the pre-match entertainment. You know that.
There's going to be no Ronnie the Rhino running around. There's going to be nothing. It's going to be strange.
Yeah, interesting. You back, Phil?
He's back. And he's moving.
I'm back. I've changed my internet provider. I'm back.
I don't think you missed anything.
Yeah.
No.
I've had a great chat with myself.
Yeah. We've just been mourning the demise of, the demise of local radio, which is dead, and the lack of League Weekly for the rest of the season, it appears. But 4020 will be out in a couple of weeks, which might better finish on writing.
Writing something then. Last minute as always.
Well, it must have been hard to fill a column.
Talk about your pack up when you start going to the games.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking snacks. I'm invested in this.
You might be able to make a bit of money on the side there, flogging sweets to the rest of the press box.
No, I'm too nice for that. Would it be allowed with social distancing?
As long as you've got, gloves on and...
Just launch them anyway.
Hi. If there's any room...
Throw a dolly mixture, I'll catch that.
Yeah. We are all just I don't want to say walking into the unknown and stuff. It's those phrases everyone keeps saying, but when you watch all these different sports coming back on the telly, it's going to be completely different to anything we've known before. Not even pre-season friendlies when no one's there.
You speak to people, though, covering football, and they say it doesn't, like, the first couple of weeks feels really strange, but actually they're very much used to it now. They've all adapted really quickly to it, haven't they?
Yes.
And they're all really positive about it as well. It's do it this way or don't do it at all. So
well, I think what's the alternative?
Have you done your was it education test or something?
No. I was successful, but I didn't get an education test. I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, it's forced people to work differently. It's dragged everybody into the modern day, which would not do any harm anyway. So yeah, let's see.
No, I'd be interested how it works. Really interested to see how it works. How are you going to cope, Phil, when having to get 53 million Leeds players after each game?
Well, am I going to be able to even sit near the people I normally sit near? In which case, will I be getting texts all the way through the game going, who threw that pass?
What's the penalty count?
Yeah. It's the new way of working, isn't it?
You play your marks out of 10.
This is why you look youthful.
Yeah.
Because you've had 4 months off that.
We don't yet know the venues after round 3 either, do we?
No.
So again, that
talk of fans being allowed in September.
1 or 2 games. I mean, 1 or 2 clubs are definitely looking at it.
Which you wrote about, didn't you?
Yeah, 1 or 2 clubs are definitely looking at it. I think Salford and Casford are looking at it with a maximum of 3,500 fans. And there is a plan drawn up by another club whereby, obviously it depends on what capacity of the ground is. It's basically like groups or families can sit together, then there's a width of 2 seats between them and the next person. And it's alternate rows as well in the seating.
So how would you do that with a ground that's predominantly standing?
Well, you have your group stood together, and then it's 1.2 metres, which is essentially 4 foot, and then you have stewards sort of patrolling it. Basically, stewards have to do the job.
That's worked well so far.
What stewards in general?
The alternative could be we could tie them to the rails.
Could you tell me whose bubble you're in, please?
Yeah. Where Ken Bates electric fences need to come back, and then we can. If you move, you're going to get a lot.
Cattle prods.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, I could do with some extra money, so I'll apply for that job. That'll be all right. I could do.
What we were talking about earlier, it's basically just people having common sense, isn't it? Like a common sense attitude to it all. If people show common sense, it has much greater chance of working than if people don't.
Having watched.
The other danger is clearly there is a possibility of a localised outbreak of the disease. It hasn't disappeared, and we'd be naive to think that it had. And obviously, Darwin is an area apparently that is one of the most at risk at the moment. It wouldn't be difficult to see that moving into the Wigan borough. It's only sort of the next one across. And again, what are the contingencies if a team has to drop out of the competition, even temporarily, because they're in an area that has, been exposed. And I think that is I know at the moment everything that's possibly being done to protect Catalan is being done, but it is in Barcelona, which literally is an hour down the road. And you know, we've got to be aware of the fact that we've got so many games being played in such a short period of time that any disruption to that, be that, you know, too many positive tests or an area that people aren't allowed to go in and out of, that is going to affect our season. And that, I think, again, is at the back of everybody's mind. There is a concern.
In terms of localised lockdowns here, we've already seen how it works with Leicester City football. They still played at home, even though Leicester, or rather parts of Leicester, were in localised lockdown. And as long as the players, whoever's going, they're tested and the tests come back negative, then they're almost like in their own sort of bubble. So they can go play the game, basically go to the ground, play the game, go. And that sort of covers localised lockdowns here. The issue with Catalan is, for a start, well, certainly with, I mean, as far as I know, there's an edict or a decision being made whereby teams will fly into and out of Perpignan rather than Barcelona. I mean,
presumably they need to be here sooner rather than later for the first month.
Well, Catalan are going to charter flights for every game in the. Oh, what's happened there?
Oh, I don't know.
And the thing about that, again, is the additional cost. Who is going to pay for all of that? Does it come out of a central pot? Does it come out of the £16 million? Is it the responsibility of the club themselves? Because, again, in the Australian game, to charter planes, to make sure that you knew exactly how the players were getting to matches, that was all centrally funded because they've got the money to do it.
As far as I know, all the clubs are going to have to cover the cost themselves.
That's a hell of an ask.
It is, but I did a quick quote before for just sort of saying, for instance, like for the Leeds game in Catalan, chartering a flight, flying on the Saturday, because Leeds play Catalan on the Monday, so you fly on the Saturday and leave in the early hours of the Tuesday, the flight costs £29,000. Now, a club that travelled to Catalan earlier in the season by doing the traditional jet to Barcelona and bussing it, that cost them £26,000. So it sounds a lot more than actually. I mean, okay, it's a big expense, but it's not much more than doing it like travelling on the scheduled flights, really.
There's a lot more logistics involved in these things than you actually realise, isn't there? A lot more goes into running a rugby league club than you'd think. But at least you don't have to think about these things and just let them get on with it, and hopefully all goes to the best. I think before we get into the predictions on this technologically challenged programme...
I don't know who's playing. You'll have to remind me. I'm joking. Cool. I'm not really.
No, I had to check as well, and I almost gave the wrong fixtures out, so that would have been good. Are we all looking forward to the redraw of the Challenge Cup? I mean, I hope Sandy is waiting ready for the call from the RFL to redraw the cup when everyone pulls out.
Saints?
Oh, yeah, I am then.
Again, forgive my usual ignorance on all of this, but haven't the BBC already announced that they're covering 2 fixtures?
Oh, yes, they have, haven't they? Yeah.
So how are you going to have a redraw? Is it of the fixtures other than those, or?
I just read it on the internet. I don't know.
Well, it must be true then. It must be true.
I mean, are you going to have...
Facebook told me so.
I mean, are you going to have... How many teams are you going to have in the Challenge Cup? Are you going to have 10 teams in, which means you get down to 5 for the quarterfinals, which is an odd number? Are you going to sort of bring in teams that have been knocked out already, give them a second chance to make up the numbers?
Well, I heard Huddersfield saying they were looking forward to having the weeks of the Challenge Cup off because they thought that would help them in this onerous league. But they were beaten by Toronto, so what if they now replace them and they're back in the Challenge Cup?
No, exactly.
And then they win it, and then there'll be a trivia question in the future, won't they?
Well, if it stays as if Huddersfield are reinstated, they're meant to play Newcastle.
So they go straight through to the quarterfinals, having been knocked out the round before.
Yes.
That sounds very rugby league. But the other thing about the Challenge Cup, which again, it's making the schedule for those who get further in the competition even more onerous, is that unless you can have a crowd at the final, then the Challenge Cup clearly isn't viable this year.
Yes.
As a competition. So at what point do you say we don't need to worry about redraws or how the competition is going to look? Because unlike the FA Cup, which was already, I think, at the semi-final stage when lockdown came, and the fact that football is such a big sport that the FA Cup still could be played behind closed doors, I'm not sure we could afford to play the Challenge Cup behind closed doors.
Yeah, I think all this has sort of brought that decision day forward, really. I think a decision will have to be made in the next sort of week or so as to whether they're going to go on, whether they're going to redraw it, if they're going to redraw it, who's going to be in it. I think all this will have to be decided in the next week or so.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I was looking forward to playing Fev as well. I mentioned baseball a minute ago because their season restarted. They're playing a 60-game season as opposed to the 7 million games they usually play in a year.
Yeah.
But here's a cautionary tale, which come up on the Sky Sports ticker of doom. Miami Marlins were supposed to play Baltimore, but the game's been cancelled due to a coronavirus outbreak. And because of that, Philadelphia have had to cancel their match with whoever they were playing because the visitors' dressing room was used by the Miami Marlins.
Oh, right, yes.
So it's all...
And that's what I'm saying. We've got to be aware of the fact that even though we're starting and we've got 12 teams has already gone to 11, there are going to be issues along the way. And don't start getting the finger of blame out. This is an impossible situation and it will have to be monitored on a daily basis. Whoever wins the tournament, if we get to see the conclusion of it in the manner in which they've planned, will be unbelievably deserving of winning it. But we should all enter into the 2020 season in the spirit of the fact that actually it's just getting through it. We need to fulfil as many obligations as we can. We need to look after the players as best we can. And we need to nurse all the clubs through as best we can. And if we don't have a resolution that suits everybody, tough.
It's like I said before, like never is the answers, I don't know, or we didn't know, been more apt and applicable than in situations like this.
And the message to the players, and this should be the one that's going out from the union leaders and the clubs themselves, don't be Benji Marshall, don't be Joshua Archer, just stay in your bubbles and just don't be in trouble.
Yes, especially.
Don't kiss a reporter, whatever you do.
Yes.
Although judging by the Rugby League press box, I don't think that's going to happen. Or you'd hope.
I think Gemma's in great demand.
Where's Brian McDermott going to go, Gemma?
Oh, Brian. Couldn't be assistant at Salford or something.
Should just clip that bit out. Oh, Brian. I'll do that later.
I got a lovely message off Tony Smith this morning. My Tony. Oh. Can't wait to see him.
You're not allowed to see him. Oh. You'll be able to wave to him.
Yeah,
see him from a distance.
From a distance.
We'll make a I Heart Tony flag or something.
What does Ian Watson think about all this?
Well, just play it cool.
Think of what Gemma's dividing loyalties or Gemma's switching.
I assume you're just used to this by now, Gary. You know.
I was probably used to it before we were even married, to be honest with you.
This is like proper shit goggle box, this, isn't it? Sorry, I swore.
Oh, all right. Well, to end things, there's nothing else has happened, has it? I think we've discussed everything.
Something will happen the minute after we stop recording.
Well, yeah.
Well, I got you what's been going on, to be honest. I've been watching. What have I been watching?
Australian First Dates.
Loving a bit of Netflix, me.
Netflix. We need to do. If only they'd done the Super League documentary on this season. But,
yeah, that would be. That would have been one. They'd have been digging out an open top bus for outside Headingley on Sunday, wouldn't they?
They've been chairing Wayne Godwin round for getting his ball in a bin.
Yeah, I have quite enjoyed what Wag has been doing, to be honest with you. It's just good fun, isn't it? Like just keeping smiles on faces and attempting to keep the interest up. But I've quite enjoyed watching it, to be honest with you. The funniest ones are, I mean, to be fair to him, he's been running some of the ones where it's not gone right for him as well. And they are quite funny to watch.
Smiles on faces. That's what it's all about. Well,
bang to Ed though. Let's not forget that. His filter's a bit lower than normal.
Where's the one day?
A bit harsh, as somebody we know would say.
A bit harsh. Well,
it's true.
You'll have noticed, Phil, by the way, well, you might not have noticed. They've renamed the trophy. England and the West Indies are going to share now after this Test series, which used to be named after a magazine and now is named after two old cricketers.
There you go. Precedent has been set.
Yeah, good old Lord Botham. Who's the Ian Botham of Rugby League? Well, I think we actually know the answer to that. And speaking of him, it's time for the predictions. The resumption of Super League with these matches to be made up.
I'm part of the league, so yeah, listen to me, kids. You won't go.
Sunday, gamble responsibly. Sunday, the 2nd of August, at Emerald Headingley Stadium, which is looking beautiful, by the way. St Helens are champions versus the Catalan Dragons. We'll start with the Carters.
Well, Saints. Saints could have a year off and still come back awesome, won't they? Right.
I mean, wait up, is swapping James Graham for Luke Thompson weakening St Helens? Or rather, Luke Thompson for James Graham, does that weaken St Helens?
Probably not. And I think what strengthens St Helens as well is that somebody like James Roby, who was clearly struggling with injury, will be coming back completely fit. As we said right at the very beginning, before technology intervened, which I know you'll cut out all of those bits and nobody will even know it happened.
Yeah, it'll be a great podcast.
Yeah, you will. Breaking up for 50% of this.
How can there be a form line? How can you? I mean, on paper, the Dragons, because they hadn't played as many games as anybody else, had made quite a solid start to the season. But in terms of the personnel that they've got and some of the ones who they'll have back, they've got a real challenge this year. I think they could make the semi-finals against the Saints side, who, based on the last game that we saw played, were under par. But you still say, if this is a season restart, that Saints will be favourites for this. But you would not be surprised if Sam Tompkins came out and ran the show.
No, I mean, another thing is, to discount the start of the season, okay, James Graham's coming, but would you class James Graham as a new player, really?
Yes, because he won't know the ways of the coach that he's playing under. But in terms of the guys he's playing with, the structures that won't have changed that significantly. No, I think he will be an absolute asset for them. But he is replacing the guy who currently was, when he left, the best player in the competition. So,
true. But also, in terms of the players Catalan brought in before shutdown, their team is a lot newer than St Helens' team, whereby, given the season restart, it's probably the time where any familiarity with players that you played alongside does count, whereas a lot of the Catalan players, it was essentially a new team, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that plays in St Helens' hands for Sunday.
Yeah. I wonder as well with the, I know teams haven't been training until recently, but the fact that it gives Wolf longer to get his style over to the Saints team. I know some of the fans weren't happy before the lockdown about the way Saints were playing, but they might be more adept to the ways of the new coach now.
Catalan's been training longer.
Yeah, Catalan so they've
been training longer as well, haven't they?
Yeah, they got back to playing in groups quicker than we did over here. So I think while Saints will have done a lot of individual training, Catalan will have the jump on them maybe for a couple of weeks on being back in, being able to practice moves and things. The other thing is the new rules, that none of us really know how teams are going to best adapt to the new rules. And a backup hooker is going to be worth his weight in gold. So you look at Saints, for example. We know James Roby could play 80 minutes, but the game itself is going to be speeded up. So is his effectiveness slightly less? because he's going to get more tired and more targeted. And does that make Aaron Smith a really important part of what they do? Does Mickey McAlorum, again, he's at the latter stages of his career. Who have the Dragons really got to bring in as a backup auxiliary hooker to exploit these new rules? I don't know. I think none of us know until we see the teams play.
And if anything, the new rules almost suit Roby's style of game more than McAlorum at hooker.
Yeah.
Certainly for the early stages, anyway.
I'm going to side with Saints, but...
yeah, I'm going to go...
Yeah, I go Saints by 8.
Oh, do we have to pick a number?
If you want.
You don't have to. Do whatever you want.
I normally do.
And before we go on to the second game, because there was something...
The man himself, by the way, said Saints by 16.
Oh.
So clearly I'm going Catalan by 4 because of that.
Fair enough. Before we get on to the second game, because I forgot there was something I needed to mention, which the Catalans have reminded me of, and the former Toronto trialist, Tony Gigot, is now at the City of Culture in West Yorkshire. He's become a dreadnought. He's a Wakefield Trinity player now, so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on in Wakefield colours. One assumes with Brough seemingly out injured until for the end of the season off to Bradford, that he will play in the halves, but I don't know. I don't have any inside information. I'm not allowed anywhere near the ground. So I'll wait for them just collecting fullbacks. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's the new tactics for you.
Yeah. Play a load of fullbacks. Just change the formation. It's like football. Do whatever you want. So we'll see how he gets on in a couple of weeks anyway. Because Wakefield are playing on Sunday, but the Leeds Rhinos are they going to be in the away dressing room then when they take on the Huddersfield Giants?
I don't know. Yes.
They have to be, I think, because that is the concession to it being Huddersfield's home game. That Leeds should not be able to have any advantage by actually playing at home. So yeah, they will have to be in the away dressing room.
No marching on together either. That's good news for everyone. No sound stand band. Maybe you should take a cowbell, Gemma, just to give them that home support.
Can they not put a record on all the Tanner?
A record? Have they got any vinyl they can put on the turntable?
Yeah.
Oh,
Probably play at 33 to the 45.
You know what I mean? CD, whatever the youngsters play nowadays.
MP3.
Yeah. Of a cowbell. I'm sure. Sky, well, we don't know how Sky are going to cover the games. Hopefully they've got one in their exciting band of sound effects, if indeed they have. How's this one going to go? Huddersfield and the Leeds Rhinos.
I like what Rich Vega was doing at Leeds actually before lockdown. He got a lot of stick, didn't he, when he first came? But
Oh, he did, yeah.
Yeah, things were going in the right direction there, weren't they? I'm gonna go Leeds to win this. Like
he sort of seemed to be starting to sort of turn things around on the field. I mean, okay, he wasn't perhaps the most inspiring choice for a new coach when David Ferner went, but you can't argue with the job he's done so far. He was turning them around on the field. And having spoke to Richard about the way pre-season's going, the way the mini pre-season's going, he's been preparing the players for the new rules in terms of like alerting them to when a set restart happened and things like that. So you can't really argue with them not leaving anything to chance. So I mean, Huddersfield were a funny team really before lockdown. They were either very, very good or you pretty ordinary. But I mean, I personally think Leeds will win on Sunday. Personally.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Leeds by like 14 or something.
14.
I think we saw a different Huddersfield prior to lockdown. They were a little bit more expansive. Aidan Caesar had made a huge difference. But going back to what we were saying about it might be based around the hookers that you have access to. I think for Leeds to have Cruz Leeming and Brad Dwyer under the current new rules actually just could be the difference between these two teams. Be interesting to see Ashton Golding making his debut against his old club. But I just have a feeling that if it's going to be very, very quick, then to have two of the fastest hookers in the business and be able to interchange them. I think that's probably going to be the difference. So I clearly am going to go Leeds. Well, Trey's descriptions are not going to be on the phone. By 10.
Stevie Ward and Richie Myle are likely to play. They're in the shop window now, looking for somewhere perhaps next year.
Stevie won't be playing, but he wouldn't have been playing anyway. He is still suffering from post-concussion syndrome. Richie will. And I think Richie's versatility in a number of positions. I mean, again, when you think the last game that we saw Richie play was playing at fullback, I think he again is very important in a game where I think positions are going to gradually morph. Somebody who can play a number of them is going to be valuable.
No, definitely.
And he's playing for a contract. So. Because
Simon Wolford was a viewer of this programme before lockdown, I don't know if he still watches now, we're pre-recorded. And as far as I know, no one from Leeds watches. I'm going to go for the Giants by 6. I don't know, I'm just making it up. I haven't looked at the Super League table. I've got no idea. Not that it is.
It don't matter. You just pick anyone.
Yeah.
No one's going to happen.
Well, I may as well do that.
Leeds by 10, he said.
Leeds by 10. And the Man of Steel points, of course, which is all over the place now because of Toronto's expungement. Yeah, expungement? No one knows. But well, there you go. Rugby League is back in Super League, so don't upset all the people who support Championship or League One teams.
Excited for some of it.
Just 2
games. Yeah, it was going to be a triple header, wasn't it? But
what would you have done with that first game? It would have been Tony Smith against Brian McDermott. You wouldn't have known who to cheer for.
When is Salford playing?
Week after.
Sweet.
Just out of interest, asking for a friend and all.
Week after against Hull.
Ooh,
excitement.
I'll give it
back in the
next week. Salford will win that.
Fair city of Leeds.
Yeah.
We'll be hosting it.
And you're the home team as well, along with Wakefield and Leeds are all the home teams on the Sunday, so that'll be good. 5 games next weekend. That may make it even more exciting and tricky to pick, but at least we've picked the bones out. Well, we picked the bones out of Toronto as if we were Derek Beaumont. I don't know, but all feathers and roses. Not to blame Lee for everything. Is there anything you want to promote, Mr. and Mrs. Carter?
Promote? No, nothing really. Nothing really worth promoting, to be honest with you.
No. Might make a mistake for tea.
Write your column. Don't forget to do that.
Yeah.
I've
been some rugby first.
Yeah, I've almost written mine, which is surprising, but see how many of my alleged jokes get cut out this month.
If anybody makes it through to the end of this podcast, please will you message me on Twitter and I'll send you some Haribo or something, because if you can't, I can't give you a medal, but you deserve something for getting through 1 hour 25 of shite.
I think that is our new strapline, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, who needs a better sell than that? For knowing it's undersold over an hour of shite.
Yeah. That's the new strapline now. We'll get on some t-shirts.
Just leave me out, Richard, if you're not allowed to swear.
No, you can swear. It's all right. On YouTube, when you upload the video, it says, "Is there any swearing?" I'll just put that as mild swearing.
Oh yeah.
All right. Say, like, you can say damn and stuff, but you can't say, the really bad words like expansion or mergers. As long as you don't say those, you're all right. Or Man United or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be wonderful to see you both.
Well, and likewise as well. It's been nice, hasn't it? It's been nice.
It's been like the family getting back together.
Yeah. Well, like the rugby league family, completely dysfunctional and hate each other.
Yeah.
Well,
I hate people, you know that.
At least somebody on this screen has been released, so it's just good to see you back in society.
I don't get it.
On that bombshell.
It's a joke. Oh, don't invite me on again. I'm awful.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, you did sit still for an hour and a half, 20 minutes. You didn't disappear off screen, so.
I brought my snacks with me, that's why.
That's why. Gary and Gemma, thank you very much.
Right.
Enjoy Sunday. Stay safe over there on the other side of the Pennines. Phil, thank you very much indeed. And we'll probably be back next week because there will be actual rugby to speak about as Super League is back on 4020, not live.